In the next half hour on the marketplace, inflation on the rise again as July recorded 9% influenced by the high price of food commodities. We'll hear from the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina-Ene.
The month of July 2021, referencing July 2020, stood at 9.0%, indicates that prices of goods and services over the one-year period, July 2020 and July 2021, have gone up.
The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, announces government's plan to access almost $1 billion of special drawings rights from the IMF to support the Ghanaian economy.
Board approved of the fund, and on the 23rd of August, I think automatic disbursement to member countries of 100% of their quota.
And later, expressing culture through ports, we'll tell you the story of founder of Heritage Ports facelifting Ghana's poultry sector with a cultural twist.
There's a huge difference between painting on a wall or on canvas and having to do a circular pot. So that has been a work in progress. And then the other thing that I particularly like is weaving. I like to add, because when you weave, for me anyway, as part of our tradition.
We have more on her story and that of others coming shortly after this break. Hello and welcome, I'm Charles Aite. To our first story, the inflation rate recorded for the month of July has seen an increase of more than 1% from the previous month of June this year. July recorded a rate of 9% according to the Ghana Statistical Service, influenced by the increase in food commodities for the period. Now announcing the rate in Accra, the government statistician Professor Samuel Kobina-Ene explains that apart from food commodities, transport and housing have also been a major contributing factor to the rise in inflation in the last couple of months.
For more than a year, the Greater Accra region has been recording very high rate of inflation for both food and non-food inflation. However, it was overtaken by the Upper West region, which recorded the highest inflation rate of 13.5%, greater than the national average. Government statistician Professor Samuel Ene has been explaining to journalists in a press conference.
In Upper West region, we find food and non-alcoholic beverages having the highest percentage in terms of inflation for the month of July 2021 at 20.3%. Followed by alcoholic beverages, tobacco and narcotics 13.5%, keeping in mind that food and non-alcoholic beverages always have the highest weight relative to the other components. From the perspective of Northern region, strictly looking at food inflation, as it stood at 20.5% for the month of July 2021, we find cereal products and vegetables leading with the highest inflation rates, respectively 34.9% and 30.0%. And indeed, it is these two domains that have the highest weights, respectively 5.6 and 5.0. Highlights of July 2021, Consumer Price Index and inflation for the month of July 2021. Year-on-year inflation for the month of July 2021, referencing July 2020, stood at 9.0%, indicates that prices of goods and services over the one-year period, July 2020 and July 2021, have gone up by 9.0%.
The rate for locally produced items also keep increasing at a faster rate than imported items in the last few months.
Inflation for locally produced items inched up by 0.9% in the month of June 2021 and has further widened for the month of July 2021, with locally produced items standing at 9.4% and imported items standing at 7.1%, indicating a 2.3% difference between locally produced items and imported items. From a regional perspective, for the first time in 16 months from an overall inflation point of view, we see two regions surpassing the successive lead of Greater Accra that we've recorded since April 2020, with Upper West taking the lead of 13.8%, closely followed by Northern region 13.5%. Next is Greater Accra region 11.7%, and as was indicated, this is the first time we see the lead for Greater Accra being halted by Upper West region and Northern region.
The Eastern region, however, recorded the lowest inflation rate of 3% for the period.
And we shall keep an eye on this to give you updates in our subsequent bulletin. But let's now talk finance, because the Finance Ministry has begun a series of programs aimed at plugging revenue loopholes in the country. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, disclosed this when he inaugurated the board of the Ghana Revenue Authority in Accra. George Rafi has more in this report.
The 8-member board is chaired by former president of the Association of Ghana Industries and managing director of Topical Cables and Conductors, Tony Otinjesi. The finance minister, in inaugurating the board, noted that they are working closely with the Ghana Revenue Authority on several programs, which he believes will go a long way to improve collections.
It's even more onerous and challenging as we begin to look at the role of the SEC or the capital markets, in the development of the country. The challenges are enormous, and the issue of the gap between our short-term funds and how to reconstitute our long-term funds is going to be crucial to our development. And so your role in facilitating, promoting this is key to Ghana's transformation.
On his part, chairman of the board, Tony Otinjesi, noted that they appreciate the challenge ahead and will do everything to improve collections.
Finance, but the honor done us and asking us to chair and also to serve on this board as members. We acknowledge the strategic importance of GRA in our economy, and we have duly taken note of the minister's message this morning with very, very keen interest. In particular, I think he has set out our job for us.
In a related development, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has also inaugurated the reconstituted boards of Social Security and National Insurance Trust and the Securities and Exchange Commission Board. The 13-member Senate board is chaired by former Minister of State for Tertiary Education and veteran journalist Elizabeth Ohene. The board of the Securities and Exchange Commission is chaired by Dr. Yeboah. The minister later disclosed that the Senate board must work hard to address concerns of workers when it comes to their benefits.
Over the past 4 years, over 10 billion cedis, nearly all collections, was spent paying pensions and other benefits. This impugns the long-term sustainability of the scheme, and I truly, as I mentioned 4 years ago also, charged the board to commence stakeholder consultation towards new innovative funding options for the scheme, and also looking at the issues of retirement, etc., to make the scheme stronger.
Chair Board Elizabeth Ohene noted that together with other board members will be working hard to deal with the numerous challenges facing the trust.
I assure you, Honorable Minister, we will stay faithful to the tenets of Act 766 and ensure stakeholder involvement to be aware of changing needs and aspirations. I have a personal interest. I'm a SNIT pensioner, and I suspect I don't need to add more than that.
Board chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Dr. Yeboah, noted that they are committed to making Ghana a financial hub and protecting the interest of investors on the capital market in the country.
Well, let's still stay with the finance minister, because it's revealed that government will withdraw almost $1 billion from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, to support the economy. Ghana's account with the IMF is set to be credited with almost $1 billion from the 23rd of August. Now, this is after the IMF board approved a record $650 billion to support member countries to fight COVID-19. There were initial reports that Ghana may not be able to withdraw the funds because of some debt obligations due to the IMF. However, Joy Business is learning that those debts have been cleared. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been outlining areas that the funds will be advanced to.
I think it is clear in my mind the significance of the financial architecture if we are to make any progress of the transformation that we had. So the SEC It's important for capital markets because you are then beginning to look at the real issue of infrastructure needs and long-term capital, which has been the bane in this country for a while. So we need to get creative about it. And in there, of course, is embedded the inauguration of the Development Bank of Ghana, which will come, later. So you look at the long-term issues of financing, and SEC is critical to that, to bridging that gap. Then, of course, how do you garner or mobilize the revenue resources for that? I'm extremely excited about the future because I think we have changed the landscape of the introduction of technology and the imposition of the ID system to GRA. But that's not the end of it, because we are now also going to be able to link individual activities at DVLA, or even when you purchase a home or when you purchase an airline ticket, so that we'll be getting to a point where we actually know where people's incomes are, and then they can contribute their fair share to nation building through effective tax systems. And then, of course, we have the Ghana.gov, which also ensures that MMDAs would pay what they receive more directly into the state. As you realize, I think some 20 billion or so have already gone through that platform. So you can see a tightening and an improvement, which is very encouraging. As I mentioned, we're at about 13% revenue to GDP. Our peers are about 20. So clearly, we can have another half of those resources coming in, and that gives us support for our economic plan.
You talked about plugging the loopholes, and it looks like now everything is about revenue in terms of growth, in terms of deficit, in terms of debt stock and all the rest. How optimistic are you that with all these measures we'll start seeing the result very soon?
Well, it used to be that the issue of compliance was one in which you say, well, I'm going to enforce with the old chassis. Now we have changed that. So instead of 5.5 million people with TIN numbers, you now have 15.5 million. Obviously, that would increase our capacity to get more revenue than before. You have Ghana.gov, which means that the leakages at the districts or, municipals will be reduced because monies are then paid directly into a digital system, so those things change the level of the platform. And then, as I mentioned, we formed a new group called RACE, which is Revenue Assurance and Compliance Enforcement, and that will look at the specific areas of leakages, such as gold exports, petroleum bunkering, warehousing, etc. So structural changes, which then mean our capacity to fulfill what we had promised will happen.
In your speech, you talked about the fact that the cleanup started yielding the results, and also in your quest to make a Ghana financial hub. From the data you're seeing, you feel that the results, it's now clear for us that, listen, was worth doing this?
I can see why not. I think you can see it yourself with regards to the stability we have here, where the currency is, where inflation is, and then the strength of the banks as predating 2017. But those are hard and courageous decisions that the President encouraged us to do, and the Bank of Ghana has been very strong in enforcing that. So I think the bad old days are gone, and we have a much more sanitized system which will protect, the clients in a good way and not waste the country's resources.
You talked about the National Development Bank in your presentation, right? And all of that things being equal, are you looking at somewhere in October that it will quickly start?
I would imagine. I hope we can do it. We have now sent the final list of the board to the Bank of Ghana, so we hope to get approval. We have selected the first CEO, so he will be 24/7 from now, and we expect therefore for an efficient execution of that.
When are we finally hoping that the government will take a decision on how to use the special drawing rights from the fund?
I mean, the board approved of the fund, and on the 23rd of August, I think automatic disbursement to member countries of 100% of their quota will be effected, and then we would work on parameters such as immediate COVID-related needs, and also looking at a medium-term program to see areas that are important where the nexus between finance and health meet. It could be, housing. It could be, of course, employment, which is key to us, and a number of other areas such as digitalization, to make sure that it is used well, and leverage to support, the Obatampa program.
That was George Rafi there interacting with the Finance Minister. You're still watching The Marketplace. I'm Charles Aite. Let's now talk art and craft. The global demand for art and craft is worth $2.4 billion. Sadly, Ghanaian artists are cut out of this market. They face constraints of the coronavirus and a lack of value addition on their creative work. Well, today we feature a multifaceted woman who is making an impact in her niche pottery market. I engaged Nana Ya Oforiata, founder of Heritage Pots, and I've come through with this report.
And that's him with Prime Minister Buzia. So in terms of culture and history, it's always been there. Politics has always been part of the family.
Born to a family of political elites, one would have expected Nana Ya Oforiata to follow the steps of her father. But she has a dream.
I've always been into lifestyle. I think even when I was a student in the UK or US, there was always a kente or something that my mother would send me, and I'd put it somewhere in the room. So I've always liked that. And then when I moved back to Ghana in 1993, there were a few people who were doing extremely well. Again, as you said, niche market. It's not the mass-produced. You almost have to go in them and then customize it for myself. So I still have pieces around my house that I've had since 1993.
I've come to one of her halls.
So
I call it a small museum pregnant with a rich collection of African art, family history, and pottery designs.
It's a mask of a royal, so it's a Benin bronze. It's not an Akan gold symbol. Please make sure you make the distinction. These are Akan gold symbols that we had sort of hand-painted and finished on pots. Yes, so, Akan gold weights back in the day before currency, you would have to weigh out money in gold dust. And as you were more prosperous, instead of just having like an ordinary bottle, which is a sack, you would have your own, it's almost like a wallet. And so it developed over time where people, you would know that I've bought this from you. So it's almost like currency.
The global arts and craft industry has a market potential of $2.4 billion. In Ghana, players in the sector face enormous capacity and microeconomic difficulty integrating effectively into the export market.
It's been extremely difficult. We have lots of people who make pots. I mean, if you drive anywhere around the streets in Accra, anywhere in Ghana, you'll find them. Because my pots are customized, I have to find somebody who's willing to make a mold and to change the direction of the pots for me. So do I want a smooth pot? Do I want something with lines on it? Do I want a particular design? So that has been difficult, and it's a work in progress. The second aspect was also to find artists that I could work with who could understand how to express this thing that Akan gold symbols. How do you do it? Ga, Samai, Gas have their own traditional symbols. The Ewas do. Ewe Kente, the colors, designs, colors, patterns from across Ghana. To find people who can work with me. There's a huge difference between painting on a wall wall or on canvas and having to do a circular pot. So that has been a work in progress. And then the other thing that I particularly like is weaving. I like to add, because when you weave, for me anyway, as part of our tradition, is that we then hang the symbols or the beads or the brass on it. So it's taken me about a year to actually establish my value chain. Where do I buy the pots from, at what price? Who will make the stands that will help to lift the pots up? Who am I going to get to be able to translate this idea that I have sketched out onto the pot? Somebody to do the weaving, even finding the right paints, the right varnish. It's quite the journey.
Nanayo Oforiatta is known for many endeavors, from once being host of Joy FM's Newsfile program to being a development strategist for corporate Ghana. But her talent in the art and craft industry is exceptional.
These two pots are off to Morocco.
And could you help us understand, what went into the...
Okay, so I was looking for Akan gold symbols that had some sort of a link with Morocco, because they have, of course, very rich culture. They have their own traditional symbols. So I came upon this one. I have a book that I refer to. Okay. Cowries obviously mean money. This is what we exchange. Exactly. And then the black, the red and the green were Moroccan colors, and then of course the brass. So the client wanted something that was a combination of Ghana and Morocco. So that's what's expressed here.
So it simply means that you're already exporting outside, right?
I've just started. It's very new to me.
And how has the experience been exporting?
Very difficult.
Very difficult. Typical of
that. Very difficult. This is potentially something that I might exhibit at the Sound Out 2021. Okay. It's basically a round pot. What is on here is an Akan gold symbol, and it's been in sort of like a 3D effect. There's a friend of mine whose grandmother, he's at Ewa, had a kente cloth that was similar to it, so he took a picture of it and sent it to me. So I tried to play with, I think these are the Gonja colors, in terms of a kente sort of an approach. This is like a bogola. The bogola from Mali, Burkina, Senegal, so we try to play with that as well.
So what kind of feedback do you get from clients and friends?
They like it.
Come around to see what you're doing.
They love it. They tell me, oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't know we had our own symbols. Of course you do.
As founder of Heritage Pots, a creative company facelifting pots with colorful cultural messages, Nanayo Oforiatta is confident of value addition and exports.
So they come like this, and then this is our next station. Here we have Loco. Loco and Derek really are the artists in chief. As I said, they're both trained in fine arts. This is the senior, that's the junior. And you can see that we're inspired by an Akan bronze that Loco is now sketching out. It's really, really important, and we're going to put it on a pot. So these are the artists who really bring things together for me. This is Deborah, who is actually a clothing designer. She's been making clothes for me for a long time, and then I started on this idea, and I thought, if I want to hang beads and I want to hang things, how is it going to look? And so I asked Deborah to come and join me. So she comes in as and when, and she helps me. We come up with the concept of which beads to hang in what order, and so this is Deborah at work. For some of our pots, we do weaving, and then it's from the weaving stage that we come to Deborah. So this is Roger, and he essentially is the person who does the weaving for us. So Loco started on black. Well, it was just plain clay, and then he painted it black. We added the weaving, the beads, and then Loco has added the bronzing effect. Okay. So essentially, this is what happens when you go from 0 to 100 with us.
The government, through the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, has targeted value addition in the export of art and crafts. GEPA's Sound Out Premium Art Exhibition of August is expected to do just that.
I'm going to be one of 30-something vendors. This is the second time that the Ghana Export Promotion Agency is powering this opportunity for Ghanaian artists to come forward. So this is my first time joining them. I'm very excited about it. So what I'm going to be exhibiting are a number of our pots, varnished, handcrafted, it's all customized, bespoke pots at this event. I'm looking forward to it. I think that the market is interesting. If you looked at the year of the return, of course, because of COVID, we were not able to expand immediately for beyond the return. There's always been an interest amongst a certain, if you can, crowd. But I think that the idea of Africa and the many messages that we send, whether it's in colors and shapes and patterns and sounds, in rhythm, has always been there, and it's coming together. So this is a very, very good time, I think. For me, the challenge now is going beyond a small market into being able to produce quality and being able to do it for a larger audience. So that's my new challenge.
Painted pots by Nanaya are ready for exports, as she's confident of a big boom despite constraints of COVID-19. For artists of her nature, it's very important for government to come to the aid of artists in Ghana and help them with the wherewithal to expand and meet competition. I'm Charles Aite reporting for Joy Business. Expressing culture through ports indeed, and that's how we end Marketplace with me, Charles Aite. For more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business, where you could get updates on business trends. Many thanks once again for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.